Good afternoon. I'm Ed Pozzuoli, president of Trip Scott, and today we have the honor of having the congressman from the 6th Congressional District of Florida, Ron DeSantis. Congressman, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So tell our viewers, where is the 6th District so they get an idea?
The major cities are St. Augustine and Daytona Beach.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a native Floridian, grew up here and was a baseball player, got recruited to play at Yale. Had never been to New England before in my life and played 4 years there. Went to Harvard Law School, ended up commissioning in the Navy. I was an officer with Navy JAG, got stationed at Naval Station Mayport on the east coast of Florida here. Also served in Guantanamo Bay at the Terror Detention Center. And then I deployed in support of Navy SEAL Team 1 to Fallujah, Iraq in 2007 as part of the surge there.
Well, thank you for your service. You continued serving and you ran for Congress. Why?
Well, in 2012, I had never run for office before, and I ran for the U.S. Congress. And I was thinking that I would be part of a new administration also coming in because I saw President Obama taking the country in a direction that I thought was not only not good for America, but I thought was inconsistent with the principles that the country was founded on. And I think that, those principles that make us unique, I think have got to be the foundation that we operate from. And I think that's the foundation for future prosperity.
And some of the focus in Congress that you've had has been, government accountability. You were involved with holding the IRS accountable, certain other things. Share with our viewers some of that.
Well, I think there's been a couple areas. One is national security. The Iran deal, I think, has been a disaster. I've been in the forefront of that. Two is government accountability. We are very serious about investigating the IRS. Hopefully we'll have some news about holding the IRS commissioner accountable soon. But that's one of the things in Washington. People just don't get held accountable, especially in these agencies. And I think that that's something that really needs to change. And then economic growth and fiscal responsibility. I was rated 100% by Citizens Against Government Waste as being a defender of the taxpayer. And I've been supportive of, reforms to try to give people more opportunities, such as reforming our higher education accreditation system.
You mentioned the Iran deal, Obama's Iran deal. Why are you against it?
Well, one, you're giving the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism $150 billion. They desperately need that money. They're then going to use that to solidify the regime in power, and then they're going to foment more jihad throughout the Middle East. And they're emerging from this not only on a path to a bomb, as Prime Minister Netanyahu said, but really as the dominant power in the Middle East. And what you've seen since this deal, you now have Russia flexing their muscle in Syria. Cuba has sent troops into Syria. You have ISIS is getting more recruits because they see Sunni Arabs see Iran, a Shiite country, as dominating. So I think it's created a whole host of problems, the path to the bomb being obviously one of the major ones.
And why wouldn't the Iran deal be subject to Senate consent?
Well, it should. It should be, but we're in a situation now where there's statutory waiver authority, and I think people realize Obama was just going to waive it no matter whether it was approved or not. But I still think there would have been value in going through the Senate confirmation process. Instead, they did this Corker thing, which kind of flipped the approval so that you needed 2/3 to stop it. And here's the thing, President didn't even follow the Corker framework, because under that framework, he was supposed to provide every agreement, including side agreements. And we know that Iran and the IAEA have side agreements about their military sites, and yet those were never produced to Congress. So a lot of the people who voted for the Iran deal voted for it without having access to all the documents, which to me, it just flabbergasts me.
Now, some of those side agreements suggest, at least some what I read, is that Iran is going to inspect themselves and then tell us whether they're complying?
Self-inspection, yes. So these are military sites which, if they're going to be developing nuclear weapons, that's probably where they're most likely to do it. And you also wanted Iran to provide, you needed verification on their previous uses of military use of nuclear material so that we could get a baseline to go forward. So all that is just based on the good graces of what Iran provides us, which, is not worth very much.
And this is far afield from the trust but verified doctrine that Reagan had.
Oh, yeah. No, obviously. And I think that the Obama administration went into this, they wanted a deal, and they were intent on just getting a deal. Well, when you go into a negotiation like that and you're not willing to walk away from the table, Iran figured this out early. And so not only are they getting the money, not only do they get to keep their nuclear infrastructure, the weapons ban is being repealed. You have the Quds Force and Qasem Soleimani. The international sanctions are being lifted off of them. They were responsible for killing hundreds of American troops when I served in Iraq. And so this was something where the Iranians understood that the Americans wanted to deal at any cost, and they capitalized on it.
Let me switch gears. We've watched over the last several weeks when John Boehner let everybody know that he was going to resign. I think it's the end of this month. It looks like that might have to be extended. What's the status of the House speakership role?
Well, I think a lot of people are trying to figure out whether Paul Ryan, the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, is going to run. He has not indicated that he will, but he's getting pressure to do it. If he doesn't do it, then I think you'll probably see 4 or 5 candidates put themselves forward. And the way the process works is you have a vote within the Republican conference to kind of nominate the individual, and you need to get a majority of the Republicans. And then once you're nominated, it goes to the floor, and I guess the expectation is that individual would then be confirmed with every Republican. But we've seen in the past that the speaker vote on the House floor is something that can be very contentious. And there's a lot of our constituents that really pay attention to that vote. And so I think it's important that whoever the party nominates be somebody that's going to have broad appeal throughout the Republican coalition.
So let me step back now. If Paul Ryan jumps in, would he be the consensus candidate at that point?
I think he'd be a heavy, heavy favorite.
And then if he doesn't step in, then we have our fellow Floridian Dan Webster, who's put his hat in the ring to become speaker. How do you assess his chances?
Well, look, I was going to vote for him against Kevin McCarthy because I thought we needed a change from the current leadership. And I think Dan has a great story to tell about what he was able to do in Florida, not just the substantive bills they passed, but he really changed the culture. And we need that change in culture in Washington. There's just no doubt about it.
Even Democrats remember fondly Dan Webster's speaker leadership, that everybody got a fair shot to speak and to bring bills up and to have their bills voted on.
Yeah, and I mean, even with, a lot of Republicans criticize Pelosi passed to find out what's in it, the Republicans do that too. They cram down bills that nobody reads, and that's not the way we want to do business. So I think Dan has a good story to tell, and I think he probably had 40 or 50 votes going into the first scheduled vote we were supposed to have. I think the key for Dan now is now that we're going to be going back to Washington soon, has he been able to expand that number?
Just for purposes of our audience, how do you see the timing of that leadership decision being made? Is it within the next 30 days or 45 days? It's all going to come to a head?
I think for sure it's got to be 30 days. I mean, probably sooner than that. I think you're looking at probably several weeks. And if Paul passes on the race, it may take a little bit longer, but look, these things are, you call everybody, ask them for your support. We have the vote, and you just gotta move on. So it will happen, relatively soon.
So, Congressman, you have tossed your hat into the ring for the U.S. Senate seat currently held by Marco Rubio. Tell us why.
Well, look, I think 2016 is an inflection point for the country. I think we've seen a lot of damage done over the past 7 years, and I think we need to go in a new direction. Now, I want to be part of that. Obviously, I think you need a new administration to come in with a very positive conservative reform agenda. We know we need a new national security posture. We know we need to rebuild our military. We know that the economy is being suppressed by just the growth of government, excessive regulations and rules. We need to address that and reform the tax code so we can start growing again. We do need to clean up the culture in Washington. I mean, it should be a servant culture, not a ruling class culture. And I've been supportive of numerous forms, including term limits, that they can do that. And then finally, we need to reestablish the Constitution of the United States. I mean, that is our key foundational document. We're a government of laws, not a government of one individual. And I don't want to have a president coming saying, Congress, do what I want. And if you don't, I'm going to go around you and do it anyways. That's not the principles that we were founded on.
Well, I hope you're right. I hope that happens come November next year. How is the campaign going?
It's going very well. This is the type of deal where we're in a very big, expensive, diverse state.
Right.
So I do
Florida's
a lot
a big place.
Yeah, and so this is the off year. So we spend a lot of time, essentially blocking and tackling. You're raising funds, and your recruiting activists who will be working for you. And we've done very well. We're far ahead of any of the other Republicans in money raised. We got a lot of grassroots energy. I won the straw poll for the Florida Federation of Republican Women in their state convention. So things are going good, but there's a lot of work ahead, and we're just going to keep on plugging away.
Well, I mean, Congressman, I know you've been rated #1 as taxpayer superhero of the House by the Citizens Against Government Waste, and have been a great sponsor in government reforms such as term limits and ending or eliminating congressional pensions. That some of that goes to the core of what you call the kind of the ruling class, and switching that to a servant class. I wish you all the luck in the world. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.